My parents gave my room to my stepsister, but she smashed a wall and ended up paralyzed. Now I'm living my best life knowing they can't do anything. I moved out the day I turned 18. I didn't pack much, just my documents, a laptop I'd bought with under-the-table dishwashing money, and a single photo of my biological mother. My father and my stepmother, Sarah, didn't even look up from the TV. They were too busy discussing the new era for their house. That era involved giving my bedroom, the only room with a balcony and custom shelving my grandfather, built to Sarah's daughter, Maya. Maya was 19, pampered, and possessed a temper that could level a forest. She didn't just want the room. She wanted me erased from it. It's about space, Leo. My father had told me a weak crier, his voice devoid of any guilt. Maya needs a creative studio. You're becoming a man. You don't need a sanctuary. You need a career. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just looked at him with a look that said, I am already gone. I moved into a cramped studio apartment near the docks. It smelled like salt and cheap floor cleaner, but it was mine. I worked 12-hour shifts. I saved every cent, and I waited. 6 months later, the phone rang at 3 a.m. It was my father. His voice was trembling, broken, and thin. Leo, it's Maya. There was an accident at the house. I sat up in bed, my heart rate perfectly steady. What happened? She was having a breakdown. She wanted to expand the closet in your old room. She told us she wanted to walk in. We told her to wait for a contractor, but you know how she is. She took a sledgehammer to the far wall. I felt a cold, sharp chill of recognition. The far wall, Dad? The one by the balcony? Yes, he sobbed. She hit a structural support, but that wasn't the worst part. She didn't know about the old radiator piping behind the drywall. The pipe burst. The floor became a slick of boiling water and debris, and she slipped. She fell backward, Leo, right through the hole she'd made in the brickwork. She fell 2 stories onto the concrete patio. I stayed silent. I remembered that wall. I remembered my grandfather telling me when I was 10 years old, don't ever touch this side of the room, Leo. The house leans on this corner. It's the spine. I had told my father that 3 years ago when they talked about remodeling. He had ignored me then. He had forgotten now. She's paralyzed, Leo, he whispered from the chest down. The doctors say she'll never walk again. The house has been red tagged as unsafe until we pay for massive repairs. We're staying in a motel. We've lost everything. That's a shame, I said. My voice was as flat as a frozen lake. A shame? Leo, we need help. We need you to come home. We need your savings to help with the medical bills and the structural repair. We're a family. I stood up and walked to my small window, looking out at the city lights. No, I said. What do you mean, no? Your sister's in a wheelchair! She's not my sister, I replied calmly. She's the person you gave my childhood to. In that room, it wasn't just a room. It was my sanctuary. She tried to tear down the last piece of me that lived in that house. It turns out the house fought back. How can you be so heartless? He roared, his voice cracking. We are drowning! I learned it from you, Dad. I learned how to watch someone. I love struggle and offer them nothing but a move-out date. You traded your son for a new era. Well, here it is. Enjoy the silence of that motel room. I hung up. I didn't block them. I wanted them to be able to see my life. I started posting, not out of vanity, but out of a clinical need for them to see the contrast. I posted photos of my promotion. I posted photos of my new apartment, a high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows. I posted a photo of the steak dinner I had the night Maya was moved into a permanent care facility because my father couldn't afford the home modifications. He messaged me yesterday. Please, Leo, we're selling the house for pennies. We're bankrupt. Your stepmother is a shell of a person. Just one conversation? I stared at the message while sipping a glass of expensive bourbon. I thought about the night I left, carrying my life in 2 trash bags while they laughed at a sitcom in the next room. I typed back a single sentence. I'd love to chat, but I'm busy decorating my guest room. I didn't send it. That would be too emotional, too desperate. Instead, I just liked the message and set my phone to do not disturb. I walked over to my window. The glass was thick, reinforced, and steady. I looked at my hands. They weren't shaking. My father and Sarah are now living in a 1-bedroom rental, spending their days lifting a grown woman in and out of a bath, listening to the hum of a medical bed, and staring at the ruins of a life they built on my exclusion. They gave away my room. In return, the universe gave them exactly what they deserve. A house that collapsed and a daughter who can't run away from the consequences. I've never slept better.